This conference will now be recorded.
All right, all set for you, Mike.
All right, excellent. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. We have a relatively straightforward deployment committee meeting this afternoon. For the agenda, we're going to talk about a special spring interest rate buy-down offer for the Smarty Loan with a 0% offer for LMI families and homes with foundation issues. We're also going to provide a few regulatory updates, including one on residential solar tariffs and the Shared Clean Energy Facilities Program, also referred to as SCEF. And then we have some COVID-19 transaction restructurings for your review and approval. So with that, it is 2:03 by my count, and I'm going to call the meeting to order. And the next agenda item is public comment. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment? All right, seeing none, we'll go to agenda item 3, which is the consent agenda. So we have the meeting minutes from the December meeting to approve, and the Green Bank staff has some report outs that we're going to cover. So Brian, which order do you want to go in? Do you want to do the report outs first?
Yeah, just quickly, and then we can come back to the resolution. So per our operating procedures, the staff approvals of transactions under 500,000 and no more in aggregate than $1 million. We've got 2 staff approved transactions. They're Cpase transactions, small solar projects, one in Killingsworth and one in Cheshire. So in aggregate, they're $304,000. So the process is we just report out to the deployment committee. These are consistent with the comprehensive plan and budget for the fiscal year. And then that will clear the queue and the staff can continue to review and approve transactions. Yeah, so that's just a report out.
And for those of you that are interested, there's more details in the meeting package for today. So any questions from the group about the report out that Brian just gave? If not, we'll go to resolution 1. All right, so let's go to resolution 1, which is approving the meeting minutes for the deployment committee from December 11th. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes, please?
Bino Chandy, move to approve the meeting minutes as presented.
Matt Rinelli, second.
Thanks, Binu and Matt. Any discussion from anybody? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, meeting minutes from December are approved. The next is agenda item number 4, which is incentive business updates. So I'm going to turn it over to Joe and Sergio for this part.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. This is Joe Buonannoto with Inclusive Prosperity Capital. Thank you for having me. I also have my colleague Madeline Priest from the IPC team on the line, so we can both answer any questions that you might have. But before I dive into the proposal, which will be on the next line, so the proposal that's for consideration by the deployment committee, I want to update you on the current special financing offer that had previously been approved by the Connecticut Green Bank senior team and then reported to the Green Bank's board of directors back in 2020. So the Smarty Loan, our residential 1 to 4 owner-occupied financing program, is running a special offer currently, which launched on July 1st of 2020. It's utilizing a budget of $1.5 million of remaining RSEP, or American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, funds that were allocated to the Smarty Loan program. And it's for an interest rate buy down on 3 of our loan terms, 5, 7, and 10-year loans, from their standard rates, 4.5% up to 6%, down to 2.99%. And the special offer that's currently available is supporting 3, so it's a very targeted offer. It's supporting 3 technologies that focus on Connecticut's climate change mitigation wedges. So heat pumps, both air source and ground source heat pumps, as well as battery storage, and then electric vehicle charging equipment or charging stations. So we launched that offer in July. We'd initially intended to launch it in the spring of 2020, but due to COVID, we decided to delay the launch and then start it up on July 1st, right in line with when the home energy assessment copay was waived and the incentives were increased. So to align with the full reopening of the state's clean energy economy. Since then, so actually initially we had intended that we had projected that we could support somewhere in the world of 500 to 1,000 loans. It's been much slower than anticipated. The results there on the bottom right of the screen show that as of this month, we've closed 118. It's going to be a few more with loans that have closed this week, but about 120 loans. The vast majority of which are heat pumps, so air source heat pumps with a handful of geothermal or ground source heat pumps, a small handful of battery storage systems as well, and then we have not closed any electric vehicle charging station loans, which we anticipated because of the sort of the low dollar amount of those of that measure. Of those loans, those equal to approximately 185. Almost $186,000 of that $1.5 million IRB or interest rate buy down budget. And we've done an average spend per loan of about $1,600. So that's buying the interest rate down from those standard rates, the 4.5% to 6% down to 2.99%. So we were using the RCEP funds to buy down the interest rate, to cover the interest rate that would typically accrue during that period. So we were spending approximately $1,600, which is right on target in terms of what we were anticipating spending, but just with not as quick of an uptick. And we think the reason behind that is because heat pumps, both on the air source and on the geothermal side, are not as familiar to the average homeowner as something like solar, where you can drive by and see solar on your neighbor's house. Heat pumps obviously are located indoors, not a new technology, but newer to most folks. So there's still a bit of an education curve that we need to climb for that. Battery storage, a little. We're working on that, working to train the contractors and explain it, and we are seeing that increase for sure. And so where we're at currently is we have about a $1.3 million budget, and that leads us to what we're proposing to the committee today. So if you can advance to the next slide, please. And so where we are is we're proposing what's tentatively being called the spring special offer. With approval from the committee, we'd like to launch this offer soon, likely Monday, March 15th. We would utilize the remaining $1.3 million budget to buy down those interest rates rather than the 2.99% down to 1.99% with two exceptions or carve-outs. 1.99% would be for most market rate loans. 0% though for homeowners who are at 80% area median income. And we decided on the 80% area median income because it's in line with the POSIGEN requirement and the low to moderate income solar incentive. So we have tools in place and that we can create and then customize for our Smarty contractor base and our Smarty lender partners, the banks and credit unions, to help explain and make sure that they're adequately classifying folks as that 80% AMI band. And those are that as explained in the memo in more detail, but it's based on the Connecticut Department of Housing's area median income qualification. So there's lots of sort of resources and support that can help achieve that. And then so that's so 0% for 0% loans for 80% AMI. And then from conversations that we had in preparation of presenting this proposal today with our partners over at Eversource and United Illuminating, the Eversource Home Energy Solutions team also recommended and we agreed to include a 0% carve out for homeowners who are approved through the I don't know if there's a formal name to it yet, but the Crumbling Foundation program So any homeowner who qualifies for, I believe there are increased incentives for homeowners who have crumbling foundations that need to replace their heating systems, they could also get that 0% carve out. And so what it is beyond just lowering the rate to more quickly go through this remaining budget, we also are looking to broaden the list of qualifying technologies. So whereas right now the special offer is limited to heat pumps, storage, and electric vehicle charging stations, we're looking to apply this interest rate buy down across the all measures supported by Smarty Loans, or that can be financed by a Smarty Loan. With the exception of solar PV, we would continue to finance solar PV projects through Smarty, but at the standard rates, but apply that lower interest rate across the board to other measures. So insulation, windows, air sealing, heat pumps, as well as traditional HVAC improvements like boilers, furnaces, central air, water heating, and then continuing the ground source heat pumps, the geothermal. And the conversations that we've had with our utility partners is that we would also implement, like we did with the air source heat pump and the ground source heat pump special offer, that the homeowner also participate in the Home Energy Solutions program, just to boost the amount of energy savings that they see with their project. And so I'm going to talk about the health and safety piece in more detail in just a second, but where it says the blended loans there next to standard and solar. So right now, a homeowner can take out a loan for something like solar and a heat pump. We've created a calculator that calculates a blended interest rate, where the cost of the solar would be at the standard rate, the cost of the heat pump, the qualifying special offer measure, would be at the reduced rate. So the loan would close for a blend of those two interest rates. And that's been, of our 118 loans, there have been several that have taken advantage of that blended option. So we anticipate, though, with this special offer that we would increase, obviously lowering the interest rate, we would be buying down more of the interest rate, so we would be spending more at a cost of approximately somewhere in the world of $3,000 to $5,000 per loan, and with an estimated loan count of somewhere in the world of 250 to 750. Those are hard numbers to pin down. We did our best in the memo to kind of show you a broad spectrum of different sort of projections. And so with that, I wanted to spend just a second talking about health and safety. So the board, as you may remember, in 2019 approved the reclassification of asbestos and mold remediation as standalone Smarty measures. They had previously been limited to the 25% carve out for other related measures. So they was reclassified as standalone measures, with exceptions or with conditions that the loans not exceed $25,000, in that the project achieve a nexus to energy, either in the form of completing an energy assessment after the remediation is complete, or financing or installing another more substantive energy measure, something like insulation or windows or a heating system. So we are working with the RSEP program manager for the Connecticut allocation, thanks to Kyle Ellsworth on the DEEP team, who coordinated a call. The gentleman over there's name is Henry Fowler, and I actually just spoke with him a few minutes before this call, because I'm really trying to work on him to get the health and safety measures classified under this special offer as well. There was uncertainty on our end if the ARA agreement allowed for health and safety measures to be financed with the interest rate buy down with those federal funds. And according to, so Kyle and I spoke with Henry yesterday. We had a really good call. It seems like he's almost there, but he's not fully there. He did say that Massachusetts, through I believe their Mass Saves program, used some of their ARA allocation for interest rate buy downs for health and safety measures, because they're facing the same issue as Connecticut. There are significant health and safety barriers in order to complete those deeper energy projects, either through financing like a program like Smarty or Mass Saves, or just getting it getting it installed and then potentially paid for through home energy solutions income eligible incentive, something like that. So Henry did say that there is precedent in terms of utilizing those funds, but what he asked for today in a follow-up conversation, he called me directly and he wanted a little bit more information about the HES program. And I explained to him because his concern today was that the ERA funds, even at on a $25,000 loan, $25,000 loan with $1,000 or whatever the actual cost is of sort of the all-in cost of an energy assessment, just doesn't really equate. That it's heavily tailored towards the health and safety measure. What I explained to him was that it's not it's not $25,000 in federal funds that are being utilized. It's actually just a much smaller percentage. And I ran a few numbers for him and showed that a buy down on a $25,000 loan would be somewhere in the world of $3,000 of federal funds. But our average loan amount, even though we have that $25,000 cap, is actually $10,000 for health and safety loans that we've closed to date, which would drop that IRB amount to about $1,000 per project. So that more closely aligns with the spend or the cost of the energy assessment. And I also explained that Connecticut's energy assessment program is much more robust than a lot of other states where there are core services done on site that day, and the homeowner is seeing immediate savings from things like insulation, air sealing, the light bulb swap out, and other measures. So I think he's almost there. He did give, he was indicating that they would, that DOE would sign off on this. But what he asked for in advance of a meeting with his supervisors next Tuesday afternoon is a better explanation, a written explanation rather of the home energy solutions program. So my sort of proposed path forward, if this is approved today, would be to reconnect with the teams over at Eversource and UI and work with them to kind of answer those questions. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
This is Matt. I have some, if that's okay. Well, first of all, it's great to see the ERA funds are the gift that keep on giving, and purpose them rather than spent them. I remember long ago, and I think that the health and safety component, getting that approved, is really, we've talked about this a lot, a high priority. So kudos for pushing that, and hopefully you'll get it approved. And it just seems like a great idea. I guess my only question is with regard to the quote, crumbling foundation program. I don't know a ton about it. I've been Googling it a little, but I just wonder what the basis is to include that whole category. I mean, 1.99 is still pretty good. And even the program seems to have a fixed rate loan that houses homes that, these people, it's a terrible circumstance, but they are eligible under the state program for a fixed rate loan. I couldn't find the interest rate, so I guess I'd be curious to see what that interest rate is, and what's the, and whether or not these improvements could also be financed under that program. So why add them here? On the other hand, we haven't been able to get a lot of people to apply to the Smarty, so I get it. We want to open up the aperture, but I just wonder, as a matter of principle, if that's too wide open and whether they would be better suited under the 1.99, and that's still a good deal.
Yeah, so it all makes sense. I don't know, Brian Garcia or any of the Green Bank folks, if you had any thoughts on it, or if you want me to take a crack at responding.
Yeah, and maybe just in particular, like, do we know what the fixed rate loan is from under that program that they're already eligible for?
I don't know directly. I do know from speaking with the Eversource team who proposed this to us that they don't believe the rate is as good even as the 1.99. And so they suggested this as, because they're working on I believe they're developing or finalizing an incentive through their organization, that we this could be just another sort of another nice menu option for the homeowners who are already going through this difficult scenario.
Great. And Matt, this is Brian. Just Joe, I don't know if we have a sense for how many homes are struggling through the crumbling foundation problem with the concrete, but I think our sense here was, Matt, that if there's something we can do as a group to encourage these families who have obviously struggled through a significant issue, by providing them some incentive for clean energy improvements, then this is just kind of a recognition of we're here to help you, right? So it's not knowing how many homes again that are out there and how many of them would actually take advantage of the offer. It's really a gesture saying that the state is behind you, and on energy, we want to be of assistance to the extent that we can, to the maximum extent that we can. So it's really kind of a principle.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I that's what I figured. I think they have enough problems with this issue. I guess maybe the only other thought is, if that's the goal, then I wonder. I know this was suggested by Eversource, but I wonder if it makes sense to reach out to the participating banks who are participating in the Crumbling Foundation program. It looks like it's People's and Liberty and Webster. Because, I mean, if I were one of these homeowners, what would really be great is if I didn't have to go 2 places to apply for it.
That's great. We'll flag that. That may Joe, get us back to Liberty, but on the Smarty Loan.
So this is Mike Lee. Just another piece of information for you, Matt, is that part of the challenge has been that we haven't had a lot of uptake from these homeowners in the efficiency programs, which is in part, and we've been, in year one, we asked Eversource to develop a set of like special incentives for the people with crumbling foundations, and there wasn't a lot of participation. And then they're going to try and figure out how we can, improve the incentives, because right now we're just not having a lot of uptake on the efficiency side, when people are more, they're obviously more concerned about just getting their house back into livable condition.
Okay. No, I was just curious. So I understand we want to help them and also drive more people to this program. So fair enough.
And I will say, sorry, one other thing that I didn't mention previously was it was outlined in the memo that we are requesting the flexibility to allow for the Connecticut Green Bank senior team to be able to reduce the rate further if we see that even the 1.99 isn't rallying folks. We do think that we are going to see, especially opening it up with a larger list of qualifying technologies, we'll see a significant increase in volume. But in the event that after a month or 6 weeks we're not seeing that volume, that the Green Bank senior team could reduce the rates further to something like 0.99 or 0 across the board. We didn't want to go directly to a significantly lower rate, just to not cause confusion or potentially harm Smarty volume long term once we have to bring the rates back up after this budget is fully utilized, back up to our standard rates. It just causes some contractor confusion. So we thought we'd give it a shot at 1.99 first.
So I think maybe the question maybe for you, Matt, is, you can see the resolution on the screen now. Is there any sort of editing to the resolution that you would like to propose?
Sorry, I was on mute. No, I just, I guess I would just ask, outside of the resolution, maybe explore the idea of whether there can be one, intake, that if Peoples and Webster are taking in all this information and people want to do energy at the same time, somehow, if there's a way to coordinate the intake or the underwriting, that might be nice. But I don't want to get in the way of what you planned here. It's great. There's a ton of work, and you know, I don't want to get in the way of that, but it just, you know, might be worth reaching out to those banks and seeing what kind of volume they're getting on their loan program.
Sure. Yeah, we can. I think we can. We definitely have contacts at Liberty, and I'm sure across the organization we have contacts at the other institutions, and we can get you that information.
Great, thanks, Joe. So with
Yep.
that, would anybody like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2 on the changes to the Smarty Loan?
This is Lonnie. I so moved.
Thanks, Lonnie. Second?
It's Matt, I'll second.
Thanks, Matt. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, Resolution 2 is passed.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thanks, Joe. Next, Sergio. Sergio's going to give us an update on the residential solar tariff.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. This is Sergio Carrillo, and we wanted to provide an update on the renewable energy tariff that, as you know, will become effective on January 1st of 2022. The way the tariff is structured right now, it will have two options for homeowners. One is a buy all, sell all tariff, where EDCs will purchase all the solar energy produced by the solar PV system and the associated RECs at a specified rate. It's going to be a fixed rate, flat for 20 years. And there's going to be a second option that is being called the netting option, netting tariff, in which the solar energy produced by the solar PV system will first be used to serve on-site load, and any excess energy will be purchased. Any excess production will be purchased by the EDCs at an established rate, and any shortfall will have to be purchased from the utility. Again, at established rates, presumably retail rates. Throughout this process, we made a set of recommendations that would foster the sustained orderly development of the solar industry in the state. And it is rewarding to see that many of those recommendations were adopted by PURA in their decision, their interim decision. Among others, PURA is adopting a 10% rate of return for residential solar systems that will result in a tariff rate equivalent to 29 cents per kilowatt hours. And just to give you a reference, right now the average retail rates in the state is between 22 and 23 cents per kilowatt hour. So this is a significant accomplishment. PURA is also implementing additional compensation for low and moderate income households of 2.5 cents per kilowatt hour, and for distressed communities, an adder of 1.25 cents per kilowatt hour. The proposal requires home energy solutions, energy assessments in all projects. The interim proposal, the interim decision, permits direct payment to third parties, which will allow the support of low and moderate income markets through on-bill financing. And last but not least, something forward-looking that will allow us to confront climate change and has to do with the project sizing. The tariff will allow for sizing the solar PV projects to serve historical load levels, plus the addition of 2 electric vehicles and fuel switching for non-electric heating customers. So this is great. This is the only one. This last one, number 5, was the one that is not a direct product of the Green Bank advocacy, but it's a great accomplishment as well. So also on the battery storage front, which is currently underway, will presumably be added to the tariff. So this is still a work in progress. So stay tuned. Brian, is there anything you want to add here?
A great summary, Sergio. The only thing I would add, Banu, for you on distressed communities is that the PURA chair and her staff, are advocating for more investment in vulnerable communities. And this is a DECD definition. So what she's doing here is if you are a low-income household, less than 60% AMI, you would get 2.5-cent adder with proof. But also separate from that, if you're not a low income, but you are located in a distressed community, you would receive 1.25 cent per kilowatt hour adder. So she's directly supporting DECD's economic development objectives. So really cool to see that.
Thank you. That's good to know.
Yeah, this is really great. Next slide, please. All right, and I just wanted to review quickly what the role of the Green Bank will be in the future state, since it's changing from program administrators to a more of an advisory role. So we are to support the development of the residential tariff rules, guidelines, and procedures. We are to advise EDCs on data collection and sharing. And we are to serve as a consultant to PURA's Office of Education, Outreach, and Enforcement to advise and educate contractors. So what are we doing right now? So even though there is an immediate action item from us at this point, we're starting to work on these tasks to be ready for when EDCs need us. We're identifying areas of support, lining up documentation that will be needed, reviewing customer enrollment procedures, etc. Brian, that's it. Is there anything else you would want to add or any questions?
No, nothing from me. Look, questions, comments?
This is Matt. Just a question on this last slide. It's all great. Are we saying this is sort of where we see ourselves positioning ourselves, or are you saying this is our role, and is the role that we're being told to perform, and if so, by whom? And I'm a little just confused as to what this slide means.
Yes, Matt, good question. Yes, this is the role that PURA wants us to play in the future state. They're asking us to stay involved, right? Not as administrators of the program, but to support the transition.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this is sort of aspirational. This is where we want to go, where they want us to go. This isn't sort of something where we're being directed by PURA to do.
Yeah, that's right, Matt. I think what, in all the orders and the interim decisions, I think what would happen is Pure would ask us, would you be willing to consult, to be compensated for consulting with us on X, Y, and Z things for the program. So yeah, it would be more of a bilateral agreement arrangement through some consulting contract. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a mutual understanding of obviously being supportive of the sustained orderly development of the industry as it transitions from net metering to the tariff, but wanting to see the market succeed going forward and taking advantage of all the skill sets that our team has on data, working with contractors, working on consumer protections and all those sorts of things. So they still need us, and through some agreement to be worked out, it would work through that.
Okay, yeah, that was the nature of my question.
All right.
All right, thanks everybody. So now we're on to agenda item number 5. We're going to get some investment updates and recommendations from Emily, Brian, and Bert. So I think up first is the Shared Clean Energy Facilities Program, and the team has an innovative proposal on how LMI families can further benefit from the Shared Clean Energy Facilities Program. So let me turn it over to Emily and Brian to walk us through their proposal.
Great, thanks, Mike. This is Emily Basham, Senior Manager at the Connecticut Green Bank. As Mike described, we just want to share a concept to use subscriber credits from the Shared Clean Energy Facilities Program and our Green Liberty bonds to weatherize LMI homes in collaboration with utilities and Operation Fuel. So first, I'll just provide some background on what the Shared Clean Energy Facilities Program is, and then turn it over to Brian to describe the concept. In 2018, the legislature created Shared Clean Energy Facilities, which is essentially Connecticut's community solar program, but it includes all Class 1 renewable technologies, such as fuel cells. SCEF is a 6-year program where 25 megawatts of clean energy facilities will be procured each year for a total of 150 megawatts. So facilities will bid into the annual procurement, and they'll win a 20-year contract with the EDCs. And these projects will result in credits that will be allocated to utility customers as a bill credit. Next slide, please. So the program model really places the utilities at the center. So they're running the procurement of clean energy projects and then separately selecting the customers who will receive those credits from the program. So you can see the graphic on the right shows the clean energy system owners, which are called subscriber organizations, who build and finance the projects. And they're selling the energy and RECs to the utility under the 20-year contracts. And then the utilities identify and enroll their customers as subscribers who receive the benefits of the facilities in the form of a bill credit. So the subscriber, you'll see down at the bottom, the right, the utility customers, they receive the about 0.25 kilowatt hour credit for their participation. Next slide. So the subscriber and enrollment of customers, which are the eligible customers who can participate in this program, that's defined by legislation and through PURA. And there's a strong focus on delivering benefits to LMI communities or underserved communities. You can see the chart on the left buckets out the eligible customer types. So 80% of the program capacity, so a majority of the program capacity, is going to be assigned via an opt-out process. So the EDCs will automatically enroll eligible customers to receive that 2.5 cent per kilowatt hour credit. And that is based on a customer's average historic usage. So once the EDCs determine what that usage is and what that bill credit is, they will receive that bill credit every month for up to 20 years. And lastly, just to quickly kind of put this program into context, for the full 6 years, the total 150 megawatts, if those SCEF facilities were solar, they could serve about 22,000 average residential customers. If the 150 megawatts of the program were fuel cell facilities, it could serve about 116,000 average residential customers. And the utilities estimate that there's about 290,000 customers that are below 60% SMI. So just to kind of put the numbers in terms of who can be served with this program versus how many qualify in the state, we know that there's a lot of need that can't, be completely served by the program. So it's really just kind of scratching the surface and also providing the motivation for us to think about how we can use these credits and further them by turning them into value now for weatherization. So I think the next slide is yours, Brian, to start describing that concept. Yeah.
Great. So thank you for setting that up, Emily. So Deep and Pura, which we share, have a goal to reduce the energy burden on our most vulnerable communities. That is to say, to reduce the energy affordability gap, the amount of annual household income that's being spent on energy. Sometimes we talk about it as a percent of household income. Anything over 6% is considered unaffordable. And obviously our low-income families, moderate-income families in some cases have energy burdens that exceed 6%. So having a subscriber credit is good. It helps relieve, $210 on average a year for a participating subscriber. But what we thought we would do is to take the Deep Pura kind of innovation here and say, okay, how can we apply a green bank lens to this and think about some of the things we've learned. We've learned a lot about our SHRECs, our solar home renewable energy credits, that we can issue bonds that essentially take the expected future revenues from the sale of those RECs and monetize it today. So with that principle, we were like, okay, well, what if we become an assignee of these subscriber credits so that we could effectively take the 20-year estimated subscriber savings from each subscriber and bring that value back to today. So, if you looked ahead at the 20-year subscription for any subscriber, you're talking about on average $4,200 that they'll receive over a 20-year period, $210 a year. If we bring that to the present, assuming a 5% discount rate, we could create $2,600 of present value. The question is, what would we do with that $2,600 of value today? So we had some brainstorming with the utilities, Operation Fuel, to come up with a number of different use cases. But obviously the state is very focused on weatherization and trying to not only reduce the energy burden, but also reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So to the extent we can transition to renewable heating and cooling, as Joe alluded to in the Smarty Loan, we can move to those technologies. We're going to see a significant reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. So there's a weatherization and thermal comfort use case that we will talk about. Arrearages are a major problem for the state. There are a number of our most vulnerable citizens, including medical hardship customers, who have arrearages. Could we figure out a way of using the present value of some of those proceeds to ameliorate, if not alleviate, the existing arrearages from a subscriber? That's a question. We're working through some of the details on managing risk there. Would we remove an existing oil or propane tank on a home or leave it there as backup? Could we use some of those funds for existing health and safety? So we're thinking about a number of ways of using that present value cash flow. But the big example that we dove into, because the state has an 80% weatherization goal by 2030, and because we all know that energy efficiency creates a lot of jobs, can help reduce your energy burden quickly, and is a big greenhouse gas emission reducer. So we came up with this use case with our utility colleagues in Operation Fuel. A subscriber who goes through HES currently, there's no copay. These numbers could change. I think on April 1st, things are going to change a little bit in terms of a copay. But right now, this is what it looks like. Insulation incentives are quite extensive given COVID-19. This was a relief strategy to increase the level of insulation incentives to cause more economic activity in the economy. And then the air source heat pump, as Joe mentioned earlier, it's a new technology, right? And it's an expensive technology. There are some incentives for it. But at the end of the day, $7,000 after incentives is still a pretty hefty investment, especially for low income, moderate income families. The question is, could we apply that subscriber savings to further lower that installed cost and then finance the rest? So if you took the $4,400, again, this is just an example, but if you took the $4,400 that's left from the project and the participant took out an on-bill loan through the heat loan program offered by the utilities at 0.99% for 10 years, that would cause an annual debt service of $462. So the $800 of energy savings that would come from these measures, less the debt service, would leave $338 of energy savings in the pocket of the participant, which is greater than the $210 they would receive from the subscriber credit. So it would effectively increase that 2.5 cents per kilowatt hour incentive that Emily was talking about to 4 cents per kilowatt hour. This is good because it's not just like we're just paying somebody a credit and having them walk away, but we're actually creating jobs with this approach. We're creating tax revenues with this approach. We're further reducing the energy burden, and we're reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So we feel good overall. We're trying to get our arms around what would the risk look like of doing something like this, issuing a bond. But to give you a sense of what year one might look like, so year one underneath the SCEF resulted in 2.8 megawatts of fuel cells, 22.2 megawatts of solar PV. That translates into 51 million kilowatt hours of production, roughly, in a year. And when you assign it by those blocks that Emily talked about, you can see that we have the potential to reach about 4,000, a little less than 4,000 customers who might opt in to this special offer to essentially say, that subscriber credit or subscriber savings, that's good, but I want the prime version of that. And I want somebody to come to my house and do exactly what that use case is. So we have today submitted our comments into, or actually we're in the process right now of submitting our comments into PURA on this concept, which both the utilities are supportive in concept of Operation Fuel, yes, and we've had some conversation deeply. Mike, I leave it to you on this, but in general, you see that we can take the tools that we've built and improve the delivery of energy burden reduction to households. So think of this as one thing we're trying to do on the subscriber side to figure out a way of helping them realize more energy savings. The other thing that we want to plant in your minds as deployment committee board members is, we're going to also try to look at opportunities on the project side. So those solar projects, those fuel cell projects, we can see ourselves issuing, bonds to raise the capital to provide the loans to those projects that would generate interest income back to the organization at a rate that would be greater than what we would borrow from through bond holders. So that 2.5% spread or interest income or profit, we would like the board to think about whether or not we can apply some of that spread, some of that interest income back to low-income families, LMI subscribers as additional incentives. So, for example, paying off arrearages, so that we can support all the policies of the state by using our tools that we have in our toolbox now with the bond. So, so just kind of final comments. So the SCEF program is moving along. It's taking final comments on documentation today for year 2. We are proposing this concept. We've brought in CHAFA, the Connecticut Housing Finance Authority, to see if we might not get them a carve out for multifamily affordable housing to bring in tenants into this program. But we're excited about the concept. We think that this can deliver more on top of what is already an important policy and just align it more with our economic development interests and our environmental goals. So why don't I leave it there and see if there are any questions, comments.
Hi, Brian, it's Lonnie. I know when we were doing this then, the 2018 bill, and finally making it happen, I think it was the Consumer Council at the time was very concerned that in some programs in other states, when there were legal issues where subscribers felt they weren't getting their fair share or, any of that, that there were different ways of resolving it, but, she at the time, I'm trying to remember who it was, didn't see one that was really a model for us. And so I'm just wondering how we're working that out. Who's going to oversee the Office of Consumer Counsel, PURA? Who's going to oversee that aspect of subscriber management?
It's a great question, and I want to turn to Bert, because I think in the statute, Lonnie, you all had something in there around consumer protections, and I believe it's DEEP's responsibility to ensure those subscriber savings inure to the subscribers. So there definitely is that element of consumer protection built in here. And what we're trying to think about is, because we want to assign those future cash flows to the bondholders so that we can get the money today to do these measures, is there could be a risk on the SCEF facility side. It may only operate for 10 years versus 20 years. So what happens to those revenues? So we're still trying to work through some of those risks, and we're going to address it in this technical meeting that PURA is organizing. But I think on the consumer protection side that there is recognition, and there's definitely prioritization, Micah, looking to you here, there's definitely prioritization to low-income families and arrearages, right? Trying to alleviate those things.
Yep.
Brian, that's great. And, thinking about how to leverage that spread. And I mean, this is really exciting. And I think, it solves a big question of how to get subscribers. That was always such a costly part of community solar. I guess my only question is, and it's not for you, but I just wonder if 2.5 cents, it just doesn't, I wonder how that compares to the pricing in the pilot community solar programs and what the subscribers there got. It just doesn't seems like there ought to be a bigger credit, but that's not I know that's not our issue, but the rest of it, the activity is great.
Yeah, I don't know, Bert, I think you're probably the only subscriber in the pilot, huh, Bert?
I was just about to say, Matt, I'm saving 10% on the energy, I think it is. And so that's maybe 1.8, about 10 cents, about one tenth of a, no, 1 penny, 1 penny a kilowatt. So 10%, that's what I'm saving. So 1 cent.
Okay.
It's not a big whoop, but I'm doing my part for clean energy.
Did the Bloomfield one. I'm going to take a look there, but maybe that's right. Yes.
Cool. Yeah. So anyways, we'll move to the final agenda item, but we just wanted to put this out there and let you know we're trying to innovate and working with all the parties to get more from the policies to further advance our climate and economic development objectives. All right, last item here, Mike.
All right, so I think the last item is Bert is going to talk to us about restructuring some Cpase loans.
Yes, actually, Mariana Treef is going to carry the conversation on this one. Thank you, Mariana.
Hi, everybody, and I know we're pressed on time, so I'll try to keep it short. This is Mariana Treef. I work in with Bert and the Clean Energy Finance team, and we are bringing forward a recommendation for the Deployment Committee's approval of restructuring a loan associated with Cpase secured PPAs from Cephia Holdings. As approved by the Board of Directors last summer, any restructurings or loan losses associated to COVID for transactions that are less than $1 million of subsidiaries of the Green Bank have to come forward to the Deployment Committee. As folks here probably know, we, through Cephia Holdings, we have loans outstanding to affiliated entities of a few sort of finance and developers of solar PPAs throughout the state, including IPC. And a portion of those projects are Cpase secured power purchase agreements or Cpase secured PPAs. And given a recent executive order by the governor, it was issued late last year, it affects Cpase repayment, whereby the benefit assessment liens or revenue associated with those benefit assessment liens could be delayed by up to 90 days. So given this situation, IPC has requested that we provide loan accommodations on their upcoming quarterly payments, since their entire current loan is associated to Cpase secured PPAs. And the principal outstanding on that loan is about $650,000. So they're requesting a delay or requesting our accommodations, and we're bringing forward to the Deployment Committee approval to delay the next quarterly debt payment by 90 days to provide sort of the relief that will allow IPC to collect on those Cpase secured PPAs, given the executive order by the government to allow for up to 90 days of delays because of COVID. With that, I'll bring forward the next slide with regards to the resolution. If anybody has questions, happy to answer them.
Anybody have any questions? All right, I think hearing none, I'll take a motion to approve resolution number 3.
Mike, this is
Lonnie,
Matt.
so moved. Oh, sorry.
That's okay, Lonnie. I was jumping in to say I'm going to abstain because I just haven't been able to figure it out. We represent or work with Skyview on a couple of matters, and I'm just not sure if I have a conflict of interest here. So I'll abstain, but I think being here is enough for the quorum.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Can I get a second?
Binu Chandy, second.
Thanks, Danu. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And anybody abstaining along with Matt? All right, resolution number 3 has passed. And I think with that, that is it for today's agenda. Brian, any last comments?
No, that's it. Thank you. Thank you all.
All right. I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second, anybody?
They
All
might have
right,
left.
meeting adjourned.
Everyone have a good day. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.